So let's talk about the issue of trafficking, which interestingly was also on the news today. The Cheggy Punch newspaper, I have the story, Edo Kano Delta lead in human trafficking, and this is according to the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. So they were talking about how Edo State in particular has 21% of the rescued victims. Kano has 10%, Delta has 7.2%, and they're talking about how this is something that needs to be nipped in the bud. I want to get your thoughts on this, when it comes to Edo State. What is being done, what can be done, how can it be nipped in the bud? Because we see different reports. CNN had an extensive report, I think it was last year. So let's talk about the issue of trafficking. I'm talking about Edo State in particular because you're the one I have here in front of me. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Human trafficking has put Edo State on the world map. And
it's not a good record to have.
Not a good one. However, we're on the world map. And very soon, that's going to change. Because the new government is working on things. And I believe that in the next few years, the same state that's been stigmatized for such an ugly phenomenon is going to be, what's the word, celebrated for better things, good and glorious things. That's my opening remarks. You know that the problem with human trafficking has been,
it's been around since forever.
A long time. And I've always said that this occurrence or problem that we find is a result of failure of past governments. Okay? I always liken this to a home. You have a mother and father, you've got children. If the parents don't take good care of the children and give them what's their basic needs, they would leave that home. Let's say they don't need. They go to a friend's home and they find that they're getting much better care and better life. You find that child always spending more time in the house. Someday, you'll find that child will just walk away with some stranger who's come and offered a better life. That's what's happened. This country has been blessed with everything we need to be a great country. Everything. Human resources, natural resources, everything we need. The critical mass, population, everything, that any developing country requires to become great. And so there's no reason why Nigeria should have this problem of human trafficking. It's a good thing that we have, the current government is at the federal level and also at the state level, is taking steps to begin to address the problem. When my husband came into power, he was warned to stay away from the human trafficking.
Oh, really?
Issue. Oh, yes. I recall making, just before the elections, I had an interview with a newspaper, Vanguard, and I spoke just as I spoke about this problem being as a result of failure of government, and government should do what they need to do, develop the state, blah blah blah, create jobs and all that, and then the children will stop leaving the shores of Nigeria. And that's, I wouldn't blame our girls and women for leaving the country, and the people should stop stigmatizing them, because if they had a better option, they wouldn't do what they're doing. Those are my comments. And then it was reported nicely and people commented and all of that. And then some people in society, possible traffickers, began to turn the story, turn it upside down, and said all manner of things. So she's calling Edo the women prostitutes and all of that, So that was the order, in the state at the time. The reason being that there were lots and lots of families who are involved in
It's a
trafficking,
business.
either as traffickers or as traffickers. And so nobody wanted anything to be done about it. So it was a physical fight. I recall the former governor's wife of the state was, hounded when she went to Italy to see, meet with the girls there and talk to them, and it was a very unpleasant experience. And so they did that to prevent, intervention. But they quickly found that they were dealing with the wrong person, because my husband said, in his time, this thing must end. Anything he needs to do, he will do it. And then he set up a task force, headed by the Attorney General, who happens to be a woman, to work on our own laws,
Domestic laws of Edo
domestic laws of Edo
State,
State, regardless of the federal one. And that anyone caught in the trade in Edo State would be dealt with, according to the state-owned laws. He's been going back and forth with European countries, talking with them, and seeking the support to provide. He said something which I found quite interesting. That, look, people want to travel. They want to live for a better life.
Absolutely.
So let's make it legal. They would travel anyway, even though the numbers would reduce. Even for people who aren't going for, undesirable things like human trafficking. Let us make this thing legal and make it easy for people to let's make it legitimate. So what do you need, Italy? Do you need nurses, or do you need people in the hospitality business, waiters and, like you have most, if you go on cruises, you'll find, especially in America, around America, that most of the stewards and cooks and people, the workers on board are from the Philippines. So that's their own niche. They probably have gone into all manner of agreements with, these shipping companies and certain governments to train people for that industry. So my husband is saying, so what do you need in your country that you don't have, that we can provide? And so we collaborate and train our young girls and boys, and then you give them a legal travel document. And so it's like an exchange. We train them for you, we send them to you, you employ them, and they have a decent life. That's what these children are after. Nobody wants to sell their bodies. These young girls and boys are just seeking for, some of them, a lot of them I've found, are the breadwinners back home. Poverty is the underlying problem. I've set up a shelter in Benin to cater to support government's initiatives to mentor and rehabilitate and train some of these girls. And I found that I give them a stipend of 30,000, 20,000. 4 or so of them came pregnant, and so they all had the babies safely, thank God. So for those with babies, they get 10,000 naira extra. And I find that these girls still send money to their families.
Wow.
Sometimes the family members come to stay with them in the shelter. This has happened with girls who had babies and wouldn't want to go back. So that's the underlying problem. So these girls and boys are going out of the country just to be able to earn something. They left, a lot of them, because there was no means of livelihood. Not for themselves, not for their family members. Desperate situations. Okay. So if they are given a decent job and a decent pay, they will solve the problem. So those are the discussions the government's having. But in the meantime, when they come back, when they bring them into the country, the government has a whole program. They first profile them, and they test them for different diseases to make sure that they're disease-free. And those who have, infections or ailments are, quarantined and treated. And then they try to, rehabilitate them. There are all kinds of training programs going around in the States, one of which is the farming program we talked about. And Um, yeah, and so they also try to give them some stipend, um, and then, you know, help to reunite them with their families. And those who don't want to go, but sometimes you find that some of them don't want
They
to
don't
go
want to go back to their
because
families.
it's usually the family members who would have trafficked them. And so some of them are waiting with threats and all of that to be trafficked them.
Wow.
So I was quite pleased to hear that the numbers that you spoke about sound like 1/3 of what it was.
What it was before.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
2 years ago. We were doing like 60% of traffic persons in Edo State. And I heard you say 21%.
21%.
I don't know where you got the figures from. So obviously there's something.
There's some progress. But let me also ask this, because I mean, the issue of this trafficking, it's being on for so long that speaking to even friends, you know, who are from Edo State and stuff like that, and hear somebody say, oh, there are some people who just see it like, you know what, it's this thing to do. It's even like, oh, you look for a way to just go, you know, somebody tells you go. And for some of them, they don't necessarily see it as a wrong thing because it is almost normal. So is there like a way to have a reorientation, especially of the young girls, so that
That's
they don't
what's
look
going on.
to this as an option for life?
True, that's what's going on. So I have a few programs myself. I know that the government has a lot, and we've got all kinds of people and agencies supporting various initiatives, you know, there. But I have I have a shelter, and I've set up 3 academies with all run and owned by young Edo women. One is a Lady Mechanic initiative.
Oh,
Lady
wow.
Mechanic is very popular. She's been
Yes, I've heard
around
about that.
a lot of time. She happens to be a Benin girl, so I brought her to the States when we became governor, because I knew her from way back at the Bank of Industry, where we had supported her to launch her out. So she came as soon as we became governor, set up, her husband gave her big business. He just threw her into the some yard where they had abandoned cars, government cars, and told her to refurbish them, and she did a marvelous job. Pimped them,
Wow.
fixed them all, and so he refused to buy brand new cars, and she pimped everything, and they all looked so brand new, and started giving them out, you know, to workers rather than buying new cars. So he was very pleased with her, and then moved her from the government dump sites to, you know, the government house to the old vendor line terminal, where they have it's an age-old
Bus terminal.
So they've got the whole works, you know, for like a whole mechanics place. So he moved up there, and she set up, you know, cleaned up the place that had been abandoned for decades, cleaned it up, set it up properly, professionally, and began to take indigent young girls for her to train. And then when I started the shelter thing, I got her to also begin to train some of the girls who are interested in becoming lady mechanics. So I've got that. I've also got a hospitality company where people are trained to be caterers, bakers, cooks, and all of that. And also a lady cobbler. So these are the 3 academies I've set up to help me train and mentor these girls. So the thing, what happens is this: I use these young ladies, young women, who are doing so well in their businesses. Both of them millionaires, you know, to also mentor the girls, you know, to talk to them about
And
it, because
inspire
they
them.
all also came from lowly backgrounds and all of that. That if I can make it, you can make it, and you don't have to be to have a degree to become successful, you know. So that's what I'm doing with them, and I don't know, I can't remember what it was that you asked.
Yeah, I was asking how do you change the minds of
Yes,
young
indeed.
girls to
So,
start to see.
Yes, so with the shelter, we have a shelter mother, who's myself, a shelter matron, and a shelter counselor, who's a pastor, female pastor. So they in touch with girls every day. There's a bus takes them, the shelter matron takes them to in the mornings to the various training grounds and brings them back every day, takes them to church on Sundays. Takes them out shopping once in a while for clothes and, you know, toiletries and things like that, and mentors them along with a shelter counselor. And so that's what I've done with the older girls. So you know, just set this up. So I'm planning for, to grow it so I can take on more girls. And then I decided to do what I call catching them young. So I have this other, it's called the Betsy Obaseki After School Club. So I'm setting this up in various schools in the States. With the same academies, training young children, young girls in secondary schools. The whole idea is to equip them with some skill, certain skills. That's a way of empowering them psychologically. If you train a child of 10, 11, 12 to be able to change her father's bus tires or service the engine and all that, she does that at home, dad or uncle would give her some pocket money. So she begins to have that sense of
earning money, ownership of herself.
Having the power to earn money. And then she knows that no matter what, no matter how this education goes, there's something she can do to make money. Especially as they're being trained by people who've done the same and have become millionaires.